Today's podcast is brought to you by Behind the Tech with Kevin Scott. Links on all of your favorite podcast applications and on the web, and also here on Thread.com, or YouTube, or wherever you're watching this.
Right. But not on TikTok. We have some level of decency.
Don't give them ideas. See, you want to know what a simple joy is that I get to experience every morning before this podcast? Makes me happy.
The thought of doing this podcast with me?
No. So there's obviously a computer running this thing. And every time I log into Windows, the user access control UAC pops up wanting to install Skype. And I hit no. Said, not today, Satan. Not today.
See, I can't avoid Skype. In fact, I was just thinking about this because I was chatting with Raphael yesterday, and he's on Skype, and Mary Jo's on Skype and others. But we talked about this, like how Teams and Skype can move forward and what would be the best plan. And one of the things I said was just federate Skype into Teams. So if those people that want that can just use the one app, just literally allow a combination of however you want to do it. But that would solve a lot of problems for me. I would love to not have Skype on my computer, not because it's bad.
It's supposed to
because
do this.
It's a second place to talk to people.
It's supposed to do that, I think, because I can see my personal Skype account through Teams.
How do you do that?
Just search the name.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
But the problem is I can never message it. It always just errors out.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Someday. There are bigger problems, I guess, but it would be. I'd like to see this one solved.
A lot of readers were wanting to know if you had any more opinions about Windows Hello not being available on that webcam yesterday.
Yeah, thank you for asking. No, well, I mean, it's look. I assume it's clear to everybody that logically speaking, that's ludicrous, right? I mean,
Yeah. No, it was. Yesterday was a classic.
I didn't mean for it to be. The funny thing is, I went into it saying, look, I can't get outraged about this. It's just, I'm so tired and it just happens all the time. And the truth is I can still get outraged. Maybe that's a good sign. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, so here's that SL4.
It's really, really different.
Look, it's nice. like Vanta Black on the camera, which honestly, my biggest complaint with them sending this to me, which isn't, I guess I probably shouldn't complain, but whatever, is I can't use it on this podcast.
Right.
Because,
why is that?
Because it's black. Like imagine at the bottom of every podcast, you just see
there's
this.
like a black hole of.
There's just this is what it is. Like that's what you see, rather than.
I think the Surface laptop 2 I have is black as well, but it's the smaller one. I don't really. I mean, I never.
But
actually, I think my son's using it now.
It seems faster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sure it does.
And, I mean, you're going from the 3000 series chips, which I think we can all agree was.
Is that what you had before? It was the 3000 series AMD?
Yeah.
Oh, that's an improvement. Yeah. That is an improvement.
The problem is that I'm looking over the street and I'm like, oh, my buddy's got a 5000 series chip. Like what? Like, it's. Anyways, we're not gonna rant on that. Anyway,
but Brad, they've customized the silicon. With AMD.
Did you read the name of the chip? It's no joke. It's like Microsoft AMD Ryzen R7 Surface Edition, and then
actually, you left out a big chunk of it because the way that the name is worded, which I'm not going to be able to blurt out off the top of my head, the graphics chipset.
Oh,
is
that's
in the
right.
middle,
That's right.
Which makes it seem like the thing that they customized was the graphics, not the CPU. And I don't actually know. And I got to be honest, I kind of don't care. But because I just don't think they have anything. Listen, you guys have been designing CPUs for your entire existence. Let us show you how it's done. It's like when a friend of mine comes up to me and he's like, hey, let me tell you something about Microsoft. I'm like, let me just cut you off right there. Because you're not doing it. Yeah, you're not teaching me anything about Microsoft. I'm sorry. I know you're well-intentioned, but yeah.
Anyways, that's a Surface laptop. 4.
Beautiful. Yeah, it's beautiful. Look, I like the look of these computers. I particularly like Surface Laptop, even though it's a complete Me Too product. The notion of a Windows-based MacBook Air is not unique, but it is also a very real need. It is, and I think it's even nicer looking than the MacBook Air personally. But
it's this is the product. When people say, "What Surface should I get?" I'm like, get a laptop. That's like, a Pro is great for a certain demographic. The Book is good, but the problem with the Book is that it's now. If you think this thing is dated,
Super
do I have a
expensive.
more expensive version
Oh,
for you?
yeah.
Like,
Yeah, with older processors. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, you can get a Surface Book for more money with worse processors now.
My problem with that, there are some classes of users who may feel they need a Surface Book because of the GPU, right? And I get that, I guess, of course. The problem is it's not a laptop; it's a detachable, and very few. I almost said no one. I know there'll be the 3 people who do this will contact me when I say it, but almost no one will ever use it in that form factor.
Yeah.
Right. Either completely with the thing off, or you flip it around and do it like a little tilted back kind of tablet you can write on. Almost no one's going to do that. And what you really want is a powerful portable workstation class device, without the detachable screen like that. I'm not saying that would be perfect, but it would solve some problems. And there's a little bit of concern there with the reliability. That's all.
You know what I really want?
Hinge thing.
You know what I really want? Take the MacBook Pro.
Yep.
Make that Windows.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
people are gonna be like, well, Brad, that's the Surface laptop, but it's not. Like, this doesn't have Thunderbolt 4. It doesn't have 4 USB Type-C ports.
It doesn't have the GPU either.
It doesn't have the GPU.
I mean, obviously they're transitioning to Apple Silicon, but if you look at the Intel version, there were graphics capabilities there that are not, like you said, are not possible on the air. Well, what you're describing is what I'm describing in a way, right? It's the Surface Book without the detachable bit, which would get rid of the complicated hinge and would ultimately be something that might look a lot more like a MacBook Pro.
Paul, let me explain something to you. I live in the suburbs. I have a deck. I enjoy growing grass and cutting it. A vanilla laptop that is high horsepower, perfectly fine. I don't need anything else. Just let me grow my grass. Let me, just have a nice high-end MacBook Pro looking thing that's not a MacBook Pro.
Once again, you are saying something in a way differently from me, but we're saying the same thing, right? So I've often talked about the notion of optimizing for the everyday, yes, there are people who need to write on a screen. Of course there are, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not complaining about that, but I mean, there needs to, not that Surface Book is a true, or the MacBook Air is a true like portable workstation, but that next step up from a standard U series laptop or Ultrabook or whatever. I mean, there is a need for that kind of stuff. You're doing Photoshop, you're a programmer, you're doing video like you do sometimes, or actually many times.
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah. This need exists. That need is way bigger than person flipping the screen around, writing on the screen. Way bigger. That market, way bigger. Yeah. Both markets exist. Again, I know people, not everything is absolute. I don't mean it like that. They should make a bigger version of the Pro, as well, right? For those graphic artists who really need that kind of a Surface, a Surface, name for a product line.
Yeah, I think we'll see some stuff this fall from Surface, but we'll see what we're now into the point where we've seen how they're moving. Like, when you see new products coming down, you're like, okay, is it really going to be new? Is it going to be cutting edge, or is it just going to be slightly different with the same old style stuff? Like,
it's like you stick a camera pointing at the ground and you run it for like 20 days, and then you speed it up, and what you see is there's a snail that goes by, or a worm or something, and that's how they're moving, Brad. That's how they're moving. Slow. That was slow. That's the point.
So, well,
requires time-lapse photography to understand the speed.
Anyways, here we are, and today's podcast, well, not today's podcast, well, anyways, if you haven't checked out Behind the Tech with Kevin Scott, you absolutely should. We are highlighting the first episode in the podcast series because it is a good one. I'm referring to it as Paul's Picks because it's talking about programming, it's talking about everything else good in life. You can find links in the description of this podcast. You can find it on all major podcast platforms. Give it a look, give it a subscribe, and you can also add it to your. I was trying to do a transition. I just ruined it. Between like the Amazon thing where you can download Game Pass, and then you can also add that podcast to your podcast feed with whatever. But here we are.
I got to ask you a question now because you stumbled over some words there, and I think I know why. Because you were talking about the description, and you kind of not maybe not wanted, but you almost have to say in the description below. And then you realized for whatever reason, I have a stupid pet peeve about that. And you were like, I shouldn't say that because Paul's going to be like, but see, I did it anyway. So, there's no winning with me, really, is the point, I guess.
As with most things in life, it comes back to Paul being a jerk.
That's too bad.
So,
Oh, I'm all blurry now.
yeah, I mean, that's...
Camera's not very fast. I don't know.
It's...
Yeah.
Whatever. I don't know why you would ever want to buy a Game Pass through I don't buy anything through Amazon anyways like that. Never have, never will. But
so it's not actually that. I by the way, when I started writing that,
Yeah.
that's how I read it as well. Actually, what it's for is you already have Game Pass and you want to download a game from Game Pass. So in other words, you like a word, download whatever game from Xbox Game Pass, and it will initiate. Now, why is that more efficient than the natural process of browsing around a list of games? I guess if you know exactly the game you're looking for, maybe, I don't know, but these things seem not completely unnecessary, but certainly not critical, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
anyways, we're still getting Flight Sim this summer, which I actually completely forgot about that. So that's
Yeah.
another
Right.
big thing coming to Game Pass this summer. So
By the time it arrives, I mean, people are going to have, I assume the world update stuff. Well, they'll probably, well,
I would
I'll
think,
just say it. I would assume so. Yeah. By the way, if you look at the screenshot that I chose for that article, it's Paris, and that's why I chose it, obviously. But it's a plane, it's Eiffel Tower.
biplane.
Looks,
yeah.
yeah, pretty. It's pretty. It's green. It's obviously spring, summer, whatever. But look in the front. There is a rectangular patch of ground on the other side of the river, closer to you as the viewer. That has clearly not been updated. So
Nope.
If you've ever been to Paris, those are beautiful fountains. It's a really pretty area, and that's what stuff looks like when it's not optimized, right? So for Paris, I don't know exactly what they did, but obviously they probably did great detail on Sacré-Cœur and Notre Dame and the Eiffel Tower and the Arc de Triomphe, et cetera, et cetera. But what they didn't do, and I'm forgetting zoning on the name, which is amazing. I've only been in Paris like 1,000 times, but across the river from the Eiffel Tower is that, like I said, that area of fountains, and then there's a beautiful area up above, which is probably one of the most photographed areas in all of Paris. But yeah, you can see what it looks like. It looks like garbage. It looks like
I'm looking at it now. It looks like the first generation Apple Maps.
yeah. It's just it's old school.
You're old school.
That's true. That's why I look fuzzy when I move back from the camera. I look like that thing in Flight Sim.
That's what we're gonna start calling it. Paul's been Flight Simmed.
I've been
Non-optimized Flight Sim. That's what you want.
Non-optimized Flight Sim. Yeah.
So things that are optimized are Behind the Tech with Kevin Scott. Make sure to give that a listen. We'll be back tomorrow, and we'll see if Paul gets some optimization under the hood.